Today we'll be making bread using whey. I warmed up 1 1/4 cups of whey in the microwave. You don't want to get it too warm or it will kill the yeast. You want it to be about the temperature you would give to a baby in a bottle. Add 1 tablespoon of dry active yeast to the whey and 1/4 cup of sugar. Stir this well to dissolve the sugar. The sugar will feed the yeast and help it to bloom. Finally, add a scant 1/4 cup of oil to the mixture and give it another stir. We will eventually use about 1/3 cup of oil in the final dough, but we will add the rest later. Let this set in a warm area for about 10 minutes to allow the yeast to activate or bloom. This whey came from straining my homemade yogurt. A lot of people would think that this liquid should be dumped down the drain, but whey contains protein and vitamins such as vitamin B2, vitamin B12, and minerals such as calcium and phosphorus. Why would you dump this nutritious liquid down the drain, especially when it makes your baked goods so much more light and fluffy? You will know that your yeast has bloomed or activated when you see a thick foam formed on the top of the liquid. At this point, you want to add 1 teaspoon of salt. Then add just a few spoonfuls of sifted flour. Sifting the flour gives you a light and fluffy bread. Mix a few spoonfuls of flour into the liquid very well and keep adding more flour until you have something like a pancake batter. This will help ensure that you get a smooth bread dough. I started with 5 cups of sifted flour, but just how much you will finally need depends on the humidity in your kitchen. Bread making is easy, but there is a learning curve. The more you make, the more familiar you will become on how your dough should look and feel. Once you have a smooth batter, you can add more flour until you get a shaggy ball. Don't forget to scrape down the sides of your bowl often to make sure everything gets incorporated well. Once you have a shaggy dough, turn it out onto a well-oiled surface. I've put about 2 tablespoons of oil on my cutting board. The oil will incorporate into the dough as you need it, and it is the rest of the 1/3 cup of oil called for in the recipe. Don't forget to oil your hands before you start kneading the bread. Knead the bread until it feels firm and elastic. With practice, you will understand exactly what your bread should feel like. Jessica over at Three Rivers Homestead has challenged us to live out of our pantries for the months of January and February. Part of being self-sufficient is learning how to make your own staples such as bread to feed your family. Once you have a smooth elastic ball, oil a bowl on the bottom and sides to keep the dough from sticking. Also, oil the dough so it doesn't dry out during the rising time. Then cover the bowl with a damp towel and put it in a warm place and let it rise for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, turn the dough back out on the oiled surface and knead it the final time. I'm making a 1-pound loaf of bread and 12 1.5-ounce buns today. So I measure out 18 ounces of dough to make the buns and set that aside. Then I shape the remaining dough into a loaf. First, create a rectangle that is as wide as your loaf pan. Then roll the dough into a tight log. Pinch the seam together before placing it into the bread pan. Seam side down. Press the dough into the corners of the pan, making sure the top of the dough is level. Now it's time to shape the buns. You can eyeball the buns to get the right size, but I like to weigh each bun to ensure that they will all bake at the same rate. Then I stretch the tops of each buns down over the side and tuck them into the bottom. The stretching creates a tight bun. Because I want to use these as hamburger buns or for sandwiches, I flatten the buns before placing them in the pan. I like to use my cake pan with a lid to keep them from drying out while the buns and the bread go through the final rise in the dehydrator for 30 minutes. Preheat the oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit to bake the buns. Once the buns have risen for 30 minutes, remove any covering you have on them and place them in the preheated oven for 10 to 12 minutes or until they are golden brown. Remove them from the oven and immediately transfer them to a cooling rack. If you leave them on the baking tray, they can get soggy bottoms as they cool. No one wants soggy bottom bread. Now decrease the temperature in the oven to 375 degrees, and once the oven is cooled to the correct temperature, remove the damp towel and place the bread pan into the oven to bake for 17 to 19 minutes. Once it is golden brown, remove it from the oven and transfer the loaf out of the pan and onto the cooling rack. Using whey instead of water to make bread produces a very light and delicious bread. Thank you for stopping by the old Mayfield place. I'm Snow the farmer's wife, and I teach you to be more self-sufficient. But if you'll excuse me, I need to find the farmer and ask him what happened to my missing bun. Have a blessed week.